Hello, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to the Daniel Sauls Show, exclusively on YouTube. And if you want to see other highlights and analysis from the Daniel Sauls Show, make sure you go hit that subscribe button, as well as the bell, so you get notified after every video that I post. In this episode, we're going to dive into college football. Okay, the Final Four of the 2025-2026 college football playoff has been released. Okay, the games for the 8 teams were played, 4 are left. We're going to get into the analysis and breakdown of these 2 games and who I think is going to come out in the national championship, who I believe is going to win these games. Now, I'm also going to talk about some comments said by Cam Newton on ESPN's First Take just a few days ago, talking about Indiana and if they were the team to beat. And he had some comments that I really want to dive into because I found it interesting. It seemed like he just got on camera not knowing really what he was talking about and just tried to wing it. Happy New Year to all. Here we go. So first things first, we're going to get into Cam Newton's comments because it directly correlates to the game I'm going to talk about first, which is Indiana versus Oregon. Okay, and this is what Cam Newton had to say just the other day on First Take. Quote, "The thing that Oregon does great, probably the most skillful offense that college football still has, even with Ole Miss. But what does that matchup look like when a team is capable of producing offense?" So what he's really saying is that Indiana really hasn't played a team that's capable of putting up a lot of points. He's saying that Oregon is, and he said the word bona fide as well in that segment, but this quote really stood out to me. He's basically saying that Oregon is the best offense that college football has to offer, and that they're a bona fide offense. And what is Indiana's defense going to do to stop Oregon's offense? And how is Oregon's offense going to respond to that? I think that's absurd because when you look at it, outside of the fact that Oregon's total offense is 14th in the country compared to the team he was saying it's better than, which is Ole Miss. Ole Miss's total offense in the country is ranked 2nd. So I really don't know what he's talking about with that statement, saying that Oregon, basically has a better offense than Ole Miss. I don't get that. But in the Orange Bowl last week, Dante Moore played a pretty good game, Oregon starting quarterback. He played a good game, throwing for 26 of 33 for 234 yards. But the problem is he didn't throw a touchdown, okay? And because he didn't throw a touchdown, if you look at the game, if you were watching it, because I watched all 3 games back to back, okay? I was sitting on my couch watching all these games because I'm interested. I want to know what's happening. I want to watch the college football playoff. And I sat there and watched Oregon. I thought Texas Tech was going to win. But the thing that surprised me the most is that Oregon's offense couldn't get anything going. If you look at the game summary, okay, if you just didn't watch the game, if you looked at the game summary, the first half, Oregon was held to 2 field goals, 1 in each quarter. The offense couldn't do anything, okay? They couldn't do anything. They had no real shot at scoring a touchdown that entire game up until the second half, when the defense, Oregon's defense, made a huge play by ripping the ball out of Morton's hands. Morton's the quarterback for Texas Tech, and the defender grabbed it and ran towards the end zone, and he almost got to the end zone. I think he was inside the 5-yard line. I mean, at that point, it's an easy just run the ball in. You just punch the ball in, score a touchdown. I mean, other than that, the offense had no momentum, okay? They didn't produce a spark for Oregon whatsoever throughout the entire game. And then someone's going to say, well, if you look at the game summary, they scored in the 4th quarter. They scored when there was less than a minute left. The game was practically over. Texas Tech couldn't win. I mean, at that point, it was, 13-0? There was like 30 seconds left? You can't win. It's over. Game's over. I mean, I don't understand what people are thinking here. I mean, it's like Oregon didn't look good against Texas Tech's defense, right? Which was ranked 4th in the country. Indiana's defense is ranked 2nd. So if they were struggling against Texas Tech, I can only imagine what's going to happen versus Indiana. Because Indiana is not just offensively good, they're defensively good. They're good overall. They're a really good football team. On all three phases, they are extraordinary because they're extraordinarily coached. They're coached by one of the best coaches, probably the best coach right now in college football. And I don't think it's close. We already saw this game. Okay, we already saw this game. We saw Oregon versus Indiana earlier in the season, and Indiana won. Oregon lost 30-20. I mean, we already saw it. So Cam Newton saying that, oh, I would like to see this game. You already did. And that's what Ryan Clark said. We already saw this game. So what more do you want to see? I know that it's college football. It's hard to beat a team twice. They're not the pros. It's even hard in the pros to beat a team twice. I get it. But the reality is, Indiana's a better team top to bottom, and Oregon has its flaws. I don't see this elite bona fide offense that Cam Newton's talking about. I haven't seen it. He wants to say I haven't seen Indiana in a tough challenge. Well, I haven't seen Oregon's elite offense. They put up 50 against JMU, but they also gave up 34 points. The biggest story about that game wasn't that Oregon scored 54. You're supposed to score 54 against JMU. The story of that game was how did they let JMU score 34 points? When everyone was saying before the playoffs started, why did JMU deserve to be there? But Oregon let up 34 points. So he's talking about Oregon. He's praising Oregon, putting them on this pedestal. The reality is Oregon really didn't do that great of a job in these last two games. They were actually really sloppy if you look at it. And it's very surprising considering the fact that they're coached by one of the best coaches in college football. Dan Lanning's a really good coach. He is top to bottom one of the best coaches in the game. So the fact that they didn't do that good in these last two games really surprises me. And it also has me thinking, how can Cam Newton sit up here and talk about Oregon like that when they haven't done anything to prove what they haven't done anything. They're not proven this season. So before I break down the game, top to bottom, and really dive into it, I want to talk about one more thing that Cam said. Okay, he said, quote, I haven't seen them go toe-to-toe with somebody that's capable of putting up points. He's basically indicating that Indiana hasn't faced anyone that poses a threat offensively. Now, they beat Oregon, okay? They beat Penn State. They beat Iowa. They beat Ohio State. And then they beat Alabama, right? But then he's like, quote, we've seen them against Ohio State, but Ohio State obviously showed that they weren't as good as we thought they were. And for the record, me personally, I never thought Ohio State was that good this year. They were basically handed the number one seed because they won the Natty last year. And that doesn't make any sense because it's not the same team. The quarterback changed because their quarterback from last year got drafted in the NFL. So that's a huge change right there, okay? You're going to have to basically, the plays that you call offensively is going to change depending on what your quarterback's strengths and weaknesses are. So that's a huge change in itself. A lot of players went to the NFL. A lot of players were seniors. New players coming in. The team's different. So that doesn't make any sense to me. But, I mean, they did win some good games this year. So Ohio State, has credibility. So they deserve to be ranked this year. And when you beat a ranked opponent, that means you've beaten a team that can do something in college football. And Ohio State this season has put up a lot of points against teams, good and bad. So I don't know what he means by that. Then when you look at Alabama, right? Okay, Alabama this season is a team that beat Georgia once. Okay, they beat a really good Vanderbilt team. This is probably the best Vanderbilt team ever. Like Vanderbilt literally was the laughingstock of the SEC, and they came out of nowhere and started playing good. They beat them. They beat Missouri. They beat Tennessee. They beat LSU. They beat South Carolina and Oklahoma once. And Oklahoma when they needed to win. Okay, they beat them when it mattered most. That's the Alabama team that Indiana played. So Indiana goes into that game, right? And they played Alabama. That same team that beat all those other teams, right? And they hold them to 3 points. 3. A Steph Curry shot. They held them to 3 points. And people are going to say, well, the starting quarterback had to come out. Well, damn it, they weren't doing anything when he was in there anyway. Okay, they didn't have a spark at all. And Cam Newton can easily sit up there and say, well, they haven't played anybody with an offense that has a good spark or an offense that can score points. That's a lie. Alabama beat some of the best teams in the country. The difference is Indiana is the best team in the country. So when you're facing top-level opponents, you're not going to be as good as you were against those other teams. Not discrediting those teams because that's proving my point. They played good teams, but Indiana is the best team. And when you face good teams and then face the best team, it's going to be different. And that offense for Alabama couldn't do a damn thing because Indiana's defense is that elite. People want to say, well, Indiana hasn't been challenged. Yes, they have. Yes, they have. They've played top-level opponents, top-level teams, and they have made them all look foolish. So what do you think they're going to do to Oregon? That's my question to Cam Newton. What are they going to do to Oregon? Because you seem to think that they're just a good, well-coached football team. And that's not the case.